This presentation will talk about how to enhance proposal quality and improve proposer selection through well-crafted questionnaires. In this presentation, we will discuss the following: the purpose of a proposal questionnaire, the importance of the proposer questionnaire in the RFP process, the difference between evaluation factors and evaluation criteria, the importance of asking proposers the right questions, understanding the key components of a good questionnaire, and best practices for creating one. By the end of this training, you should feel confident in developing effective questionnaires that elicit high-quality responses from proposers. The purpose of a proposal questionnaire is to simplify the proposer selection process and to differentiate one proposer from another. It ultimately streamlines the evaluation process by facilitating easier comparison of proposals and gives evaluators an apples-to-apples view of what each proposer has to offer and enables objectivity. Proposer questionnaires are important in the RFP process because it provides a clear framework for sourcing and evaluating proposers. You want to already have an idea of how to measure the proposer's abilities and experience. In the RFP process, the questionnaire gives proposers the opportunity to tell agencies about themselves and how they're going to do the work. Evaluation factors are what we assign points to in the technical evaluation. In other words, evaluation factors are the categories within the questionnaire. Common evaluation factors include company background and experience, approach and methodology, proposed staff qualifications, and service and support. Evaluation factors are what an evaluation committee will use to rate, score responses, and select the best value proposal. Evaluation factors should be project-specific and relate to the goals and objectives, as well as the scope of work in the RFP. 3 to 5 evaluation factors is standard for an effective proposer questionnaire. You don't want to have more than 5 technical evaluation factors. Too many evaluation factors could water down the technical scores by losing focus on the more important criteria. Evaluation criteria are the items to be evaluated which ultimately make up the proposer questionnaire. The criteria is included in the evaluation factors. The agency should ask as many questions as needed to get the necessary information to help separate the proposals from one another in order to choose the most advantageous proposer. An example of an evaluation factor would be company background and experience. Examples of evaluation criteria under company background and experience would be the following. Proposers should give a brief history of their organization, organizational structure, and number of years in business. This section should provide a detailed description of the proposed prior experience in working on projects similar in size, scope, and function to the proposed contract. Proposers should describe their experience in other states or in corporate and governmental entities of comparable size and diversity with references from previous clients, including names and telephone numbers. One common misconception when creating a proposer questionnaire is that any information outside of what's outlined in the scope of work should be included. Everything that is needed for a successful contract is not needed with the proposal. Items such as implementation schedules, safety plans, sample reports, and org charts have very little evaluation value and are better to request after award. Remember, the sole purpose of the RFP is to identify the expert. For example, an agency provides a list of equipment needed to fulfill the services outlined in the RFP. Asking a proposer to include a list of equipment that will be provided daily cannot be graded. This is because, based on the scope of work, the equipment is mandatory, meaning it is non-negotiable. However, if the agency asks proposers to list an equipment that will be provided daily beyond what's outlined in the scope of work, this information can be graded based on what extra equipment the proposal will be providing daily and how that equipment will maximize productivity when fulfilling the needs of the RFP. When developing evaluation criteria, focus on what's important in order to differentiate the proposers from one another. The value of questions matter and should reflect what the agency is trying to accomplish. You should also consider the committee. Evaluation committees consist of 3 or more people who are grading the proposals. This is information that the committee must read and analyze to determine what proposer would be the most advantageous. It is strongly recommended to review previous evaluation documents. The strengths and weaknesses from the previous RFP can help show the value and differentiation of the information requested. Innovative concepts should be included in every RFP. It can either be made a separate evaluation factor or be a part of an existing factor, like approach and methodology. This gives proposers the opportunity to share original or creative ideas that provide value to the state or enhance the efficiency of the services. Mandatory minimums should be used sparingly and are considered pass or fail. They are not evaluated and they also limit competition. For example, if an RFP required the contractor to be within the United States due to the nature and urgency of the work described, some of the mandatory minimum requirements might be: all business must be conducted in the United States, minimum 10 years of verifiable experience in the roofing field prior to the deadline for receipt of proposals, and minimum of 5 years of roof inspecting and or consulting experience prior to the deadline for receipt of proposals. These qualifications are mandatory, and a proposer that does not meet these qualifications will not be considered for evaluation. When the Hudson and Veteran Initiative applies to the RFP, the technical evaluation typically equals 63% of the evaluation score. When it does not, the evaluation equals 75%. The more evaluation factors there are, the less points each factor can be. This takes away weight from each factor, and that's where low-performing proposers could be shown favor. Each evaluation factor should have a score based on evaluation value. Agencies often request contact information from proposers for reference checks. If this is a criteria, it can result negatively on the proposer if they are unreachable because the committee members would not be able to grade the criteria. We want to avoid including criteria that seems unfair to the proposer since this could possibly lead to protest. We have learned that references do not provide much value, but if the agency decides it is needed, then we recommend using a reference request form. We suggest giving the responsibility of obtaining references to the proposer. OSP has a reference request form template that can be included in the RFP. In this case, proposers obtain their own references and provide it with their proposal for grading. The agency is able to include in the criteria the number of references along with a reference request form that has questions tailored to the RFP. When developing questions, it's important to be specific to avoid ambiguity. Ensure that questions are relevant and aligned with your project requirements. Use simple and straightforward language to ensure clarity and understanding. Ask one topic per question and mix open-ended and closed-ended questions. This will help proposers provide accurate and detailed responses. Be mindful of common mistakes such as vague questions that lack clarity, overly long questionnaires that can discourage thorough responses, and irrelevant questions that do not align with your project goals. Avoiding these pitfalls will help you create a more effective questionnaire. The purpose of the proposal questionnaire meeting is for both OSP and the agency to collectively brainstorm an effective questionnaire for the RFP. Prior to the meeting, the OSP analysts will review the previous RFP and the evaluation factors that were determined during the project kickoff meeting in order to create the draft questionnaire. It is important to ask questions regarding what should be included and or excluded from the draft. OSP and the agency are a team with the same goal of meeting the agency's needs as outlined in the RFP. To summarize, we have discussed the following: the purpose of the questionnaire, its importance in the RFP process, evaluation factors versus evaluation criteria, and the do's and don'ts. Remember, a well-crafted questionnaire is a powerful tool in the RFP process. If you have any further questions or need assistance, contact the LISA Help Desk at lisa@la.gov or your OSP analyst. Thank you.